Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Millar begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, the Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre is demanding an independent inquiry after a young Indigenous man was allegedly assaulted while in custody. The incident left the 20-year-old in hospital.
Eyes swollen closed, a young Aboriginal man recovers in hospital under police guard. The 20-year-old allegedly left in a Hobart Remand Centre cell overnight on Thursday, naked and lying in a pool of his own blood. Stacey found out about her son's arrest from one of his friends. By morning, she was still waiting for news.
The law is that he can make a phone call. And he didn't, so I went there.
She wasn't allowed to see her son until yesterday.
He's not great. He's quiet and withdrawn, which is quite out of character.
We know in Tasmania and right across the country that the most risky place for an Aboriginal person to be is in police custody.
Police Minister Felix Ellis using question time to address the allegations.
We want to make sure that all people are safe when they're in police custody. Obviously our police do a very difficult job, but that there is a level of expectation amongst our community that people are cared for when they're in their charge as well.
The Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre calling for the release of the CCTV of the incident, as well as a full independent inquiry.
Tas Police need to show that they are willing to investigate properly and sincerely into matters against Tasmania Police.
Someone assaults somebody, charges are laid.
After reviewing the unreleased CCTV, a police professional standards investigation has deemed no action will be taken against the officers involved. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Industrial action in the state public service is back on the agenda tonight after talks over a new pay deal today failed to reach a resolution. Unions say the deal is still a long way from what's needed, but time is now running out to ensure workers get a pay rise.
Frustrated and feeling the pinch, school social workers and speech pathologists walking off the job today, warning public educated students are being left behind.
The current situation is not manageable and it needs to change.
The gap between what you are able to do and what you would like to do just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
As they marched, union leaders and government officials met after 3 weeks of consultation about the revised pay offer made earlier this month. While the meetings were described as respectful,
we are not there in terms of reaching a deal. Unions participated in good faith.
For all parties, the clock is ticking, with a deal needed by December 1. The Premier today committing to continue talking.
We will continue to have that approach, sitting down, working with our public service, working with industrial advocates.
However, there are hurdles ahead, with stop work action back on the table.
We will be having an honest conversation with our members and we will be planning for industrial action.
We will consider what options are available to us, and we're not ruling out industrial action.
Retention, recruitment and service delivery remain a major sticking point.
Tasmanian government is no longer an employer of choice, and we are now seeing really stubborn vacancies that are putting service delivery at risk.
As a government, we value our public service. We want a fair and affordable pay rise.
The government's other hot issue today dominated Parliament. Labor's attack on the proposed Macquarie Point Stadium continued as the government savaged their proposed referendum on the issue.
Why have you ignored the task force report and your promises to the people of Northern Tasmania?
Either you don't want it, we don't want it. And make that clear. Well, now you're going to put it to the Tasmanian people. You're all over the place. No.
In fiery scenes, Ms Finlay and Shane Broad were sent to the parliamentary sin bin. The action in the political scene as intense as a footy match. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Tributes are being posted for a 34-year-old man allegedly stabbed to death at Georgetown on Saturday. David Jenkins is being remembered on social media as a beautiful soul taken too soon. 3 Georgetown men faced the Launceston Magistrates Court last night. Luke Anthony Shaw, Patrick Kenneth Dolby and Paul William Shaw have all been charged with 1 count of murder. No pleas were entered. They will reappear on November 23. Meanwhile, the trial for a man killed on the state's northwest more than 2 years ago has been shown videos from the night of the alleged murder. Detective Senior Sergeant Tamika Starr told the jury she had found the vision on accused Kelsey Marie Ford's phone. The video, just seconds long, was filmed as 4 of Ms Ford's co-accused were allegedly attacking 23-year-old Bobby Medcraft. All 5 have pleaded not guilty. Tasmania is in for a sweet economic boost with around 150,000 visitors heading towards our shores this cruise season. The Pacific Explorer is the first cruise ship to dock in Tasmanian waters since March 2020.
After 2 years, Tasmania is once again open to the cruising world. The Pacific Explorer's voyage from Sydney hailed a success.
It's marking the next big leap forward in the rebuilding of Australia's $5 billion a year cruise industry.
Around 1,800 passengers on board, from first-time cruisers to those craving an open ocean adventure since the pandemic first hit.
I think the last one we did was about 2017 or 2018.
The Bass Strait anything but smooth though, testing the strength of some stomachs.
It was a bit rock and rolly. You're going to have to do something about those rough seas out there.
It was a bit rough out there the last 2 nights.
But they all agree the wild weather was worth their while.
Everyone's happy and cheerful. Everyone's on holiday mode.
Small businesses eagerly awaiting their arrival after struggling to stay afloat during the cruise industry's 2-year absence.
We are super excited. It was a dark day when we closed up in March 2020.
The economic contribution from cruise ships to Tasmanian businesses of the upcoming cruise season is estimated to be at around $60 million in direct passenger spending.
The Pacific Explorer is the first of around 150 cruise ships that will visit Tasmanian ports this cruise season. The largest, Quantum of the Seas, is due to dock in Hobart next month, capable of carrying 4,000 passengers. Numbers the tourism industry is hoping will help them sail into calmer waters post-pandemic. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
A report into the state's road deaths show Tasmania has the worst safety record in the country. The inquiry into road safety found our roads average nearly 7 deaths per 100,000 people, which is more than double Victoria, the best performing state. More than 90 findings and 49 overarching recommendations were made. This year's road toll has been the state's worst in a decade. Voting in the local government elections has closed and last-minute ballots have been returned to council offices across the state.
Voting ends in about 5 minutes and I just handed in my paper, so feels like college again.
77% of Tasmanians had their say via mail, with the Electoral Commission expecting another 1 or 2% of the tally to come in from council offices in the coming days. Returns from King Island have been delayed due to bad weather. Counting will start tomorrow morning, with the process of fining those who didn't vote to start after the counting ends. The state opposition is continuing its push for the Cam River Bridge to be duplicated in the wake of last week's devastating floods. Local residents are still facing lengthy delays after the bridge connecting Burnie to the northwest of the state was damaged. Labor says its 2021 election strategy called for a second crossing to stop people being cut off.
Climate, more extreme weather events, we do need to think about critical infrastructure and how we future-proof it to protect against these events.
We'll be seeking advice, Mr Speaker, on a second crossing, Mr Speaker. Very open to it.
State Growth says the closed lane is expected to reopen by the weekend. And Tasmanians are still on flood watch, with the Bureau of Meteorology issuing another severe weather warning. The State Emergency Service is on standby with forecasts of more rain and wild winds, this time right across the state.
A warning all too familiar to the state's north.
Tasmania is set to get another burst of pretty significant weather.
People in already inundated catchments urged to pay attention.
There's a pair of low pressure systems north of Tasmania at the moment, both coming south tonight, the more significant of which is expected to arrive near the northeast of Tasmania very late this evening.
Moderate to heavy rainfall expected right down the state's coast, including the south. This event a little different to earlier this month, where rain is not the only problem. 80-kilometre winds also predicted.
So with the saturated grounds, the damaging winds might have more of an impact than you might expect. Trees might come down, might lead to power outages. So just be aware that the winds will be quite howling through the Midlands and central north overnight tonight.
Areas of the East Coast are on high alert.
And there are, on the respective websites within those council areas, there are locations for sandbag locations where people can actually go and access sandbags.
The SES warning it's still a very operational response.
Coming up to nighttime hours, we'll actually put warnings in place during hours of daylight so that people are aware, and they're aware of the call to action and the potential consequences on them during the period of darkness.
The service flew over the inundated waterways on Saturday.
The state's extremely wet. There's a lot of water laying in paddocks still, and that's not going to run away in a hurry.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, a campaign is offering Tasmanians a lifeline. A dedicated mental health phone service was born during the pandemic and because of its success has expanded.
Conversations potentially saving a life.
Maybe talking to a Tasmanian Lifeline could help you figure things out. A Tasmanian Lifeline is a telephone support service for Tasmanians of all ages.
It was initially set up for people who were feeling distressed by the pandemic.
It was very important that we had a Tasmanian-specific line so that Tasmanians who were impacted through the pandemic had someone that they could call who had the referral context, information about local issues that they might be dealing with.
Now it's evolved into a much broader service.
Since May 2020, a Tasmanian Lifeline has supported over 7,000 Tasmanians.
An ad campaign launched today to remind Tasmanians they can access the service when they need.
What it will do is spread the message that for any Tasmanian facing whatever issue, they have someone that they can call.
It's also hoped the service will help vulnerable groups, including those in isolated areas of the state.
Tasmanians really want something close and connected to them, especially the fact that it is a Tasmanian service. They hopefully will see it as valuable and believe in it more that way.
Some ads even featuring prominent Tasmanians.
G'day mate, how you doing?
Hi Bernie, I'm all right, but just seems there's more tough days than good days right now, you know.
Ensuring nobody needs to face a tough time alone.
You can call a Tasmanian Lifeline from 8 to 8, 7 days a week. 1800 984434.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Former Test skipper Tim Payne has levelled bombshell claims in his new book, saying South Africa was also ball tampering during the infamous sandpaper Test series. He says his heart sank when vision on screen caught the Aussies cheating. Resurrecting the period, all hell broke loose when Cameron Bancroft was busted for using sandpaper on the ball. Tim Payne says the South Africans also played their part, damaging the seam of the ball in the 2018 series. He claims the host nation's broadcaster captured the act and briefly had it on screen before the footage was lost or destroyed. His autobiography, The Price Paid, also goes into detail about the fallout of a sexting saga, which ended his time as Test captain. Payne says he was hung out to dry by Cricket Australia when the explicit text messages were leaked, sending him into a spiral of self-loathing. Cricket Tasmania eventually broke ranks, condemning the national body for turning its one-time messiah into a pariah.
I'm sure a few boys will head to the bookstore and purchase it, no doubt.
Tigers captain Jordan Silk says the book's release hasn't been a distraction for the squad, which is in Launceston for tomorrow's Marsh One-Day Cup match against Victoria. Peter Siddle won't be playing.
We're giving Sids a rest. He played both the Shield and the one-day game in Adelaide and just pulled up a little bit sore from that. And just with the way the schedule is at the front half of the season, it's quite a busy schedule, so we thought he'd just give him a chance to rest at home.
Launceston local Gabe Bell hopes to make the final cut.
I think it's a great struggle to have, being in a really strong squad. I mean, we've got lots of quality bowlers, so any time that I feel like I'm not playing, I'm still just going to prepare as if I'm, in the mix.
He was a kid in the crowd the last time a one-day cup game was played in Launceston way back in 2009. That day, George Bailey was captain and a young Steve Smith was being touted as a future star.
I remember I got a poster of the Tigers team and had it up on my wall for a bit.
Weather permitting, the first ball at UTAS Stadium will be 2 p.m. tomorrow. Rain has spoiled Tasmania's last T20 World Cup match. It robbed South Africa of near certain victory against Zimbabwe at Blundstone Arena. Zimbabwe limped to 4 for 19 before eventually reaching 5 for 79 in the drastically reduced 9 overs a side match. Quinton de Kock then raced against the clock to smash an unbeaten 47 off 18 balls.
Oh, this is some hitting.
It's gone all the way this time.
South Africa needed just 13 more runs for victory, but the rain stopped play for good 3 overs in. The two countries split the points. He's known by the Jack Jumpers as the energy man, but Jack McVeigh believes he still has room for improvement. McVeigh this week signed a 2-year contract extension with the team. They're both currently in electric form after thrashing Perth on the weekend to win their 4th game in a row. But the guard isn't resting on his laurels.
As a basketball player, I'm only just beginning. I'm at 20% of what I can be, and I think he sees the same. And we just got to show up every day and keep working.
He's only getting better, and he's just a perfect fit for the community and this roster. And like I said, I hope he finishes his career here.
The Jack Jumpers are heading across the Tasman this week to face the Breakers on Sunday. A $100,000 carrot is being dangled in the hope of making history in Tasmania. The mega bonus will be paid to the connections of any greyhound which can win the Chase, Hobart 1000 and Launceston Cup, a feat never achieved before. Trainer Blake Purcell's kennel includes Aston Casey and McInerney, who could snag the big prize.
We don't do it for the money, we do it for the love of the racing, but it's just an even bigger incentive.
Gives people an opportunity to dream. $100,000 is not something that falls in your pocket every day of the week.
If a greyhound manages to win 2 out of 3, it still ain't bad. The owner will cash in a $25,000 bonus. And after winning bronze at this year's Commonwealth Games, Tasmanian para swimmer Jacob Templeton is calling time on his career. Templeton has spent 9 years swimming at an international level, including at the 2016 Paralympic Games and 2015 World Championships, where he made the finals. He also broke 3 world records during his time. But Templeton says this year's Birmingham bronze was his gold. And having chatted to him after that bronze, Kim, he is a terrific fella. So well done, Jacob, on a wonderful career.
Good evening. 16 in Hobart today, Burnie 17, 18 in Devonport, Launceston 20. 22 was the state's top today in Strawn, 17 about Smithton and Ouse and 18 in Flinders Island. On the close-up shows very thick high-level cloud moving over the state from the northeast. Further out, thunderstorms are seen over the top end, South Australia and coastal New South Wales. Tomorrow, a complex low-pressure system persists over southeastern Australia with a low centre near northern Tasmania. Southeasterly winds tomorrow 20 to 30 knots, swells up to 4 metres in the west and south and up to 2 metres in the north. A severe weather warning for damaging winds is current for the East Coast, Central North Midlands and North West Coast forecast districts, a gale warning for Flinders Island and the East Coast, and a strong wind warning for the Derwent Estuary, Frederick Henry Bay, Norfolk Bay, Storm Bay, Bank Strait, Franklin Sound and the West Coast. A flood warning is current for the South Esk, Macquarie, Meander and North Esk rivers, and a road weather alert for the North East, East Coast and South East forecast districts. Tomorrow's forecast now, Hobart and Geeveston rain with possible heavy falls, 16 in Bothwell. In the north, Launceston 20, rain across Devonport and Cressy. Burnie and Curry tomorrow, 17, rain increasing in Strawn. 17 in St Helens and rain with possible heavy falls about Swansea and Fingal. The UV forecast is high 7s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast now. Thursday, showers with east to southeasterly winds. Friday, showers increasing about the west during the evening. And Saturday, showers mostly about the west, easing during the afternoon. Capital cities 22 and mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow. Adelaide, a shower or 2 and 27 in Sydney. And currently Hobart haze and 15, Launceston 16 and Devonport cloudy and 16. That's all for weather, Kim.
A rough few days ahead. Thanks very much, Jackie. And that is all your news for now. Take care, everyone. Good night.